The moment the storm ripped through the Italian countryside, I thought my biggest fear was being trapped inside a centuries-old villa with my impossible-to-please boss. I was wrong. My biggest fear was discovering that the woman I thought had no heart was actually carrying a pain deeper than anything I had ever imagined. And by the time the storm passed, neither of us would ever look at each other the same way again. Before we begin this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more stories of humanity, healing, and unexpected connections to our community. I had worked for nearly 3 years as an executive assistant for Celeste Whitmore, the brilliant but intimidating CEO of a luxury design company based in London. Everyone in the office admired her intelligence, but very few people truly liked her. She was known for her sharp decisions, her endless work hours, and her ability to make even the most confident employees feel nervous with just one look. To most people, Celeste was a woman made of glass and steel. She never showed weakness. She never spoke about her personal life. She never stayed after meetings to talk about anything unrelated to business. She seemed like someone who had built a wall around her heart and thrown away the key. But I saw small moments that others missed. I noticed how she quietly donated to charities without allowing her name to appear anywhere. I noticed how she always remembered the birthdays of employees' children. I noticed how she would stop reading emails whenever she received a message about someone struggling, even if she pretended she was too busy to care. My name is Rowan Hale, and unlike Celeste, I had always believed people were more than the image they showed the world. Maybe that belief came from my own past. After losing my father when I was young and watching my mother struggle to keep our family together, I learned that people often hide their pain behind ordinary smiles. That was why I never judged Celeste. Even when she criticized my work. Even when she canceled vacations at the last minute. Even when she seemed more comfortable with spreadsheets than with human beings. I knew there had to be a reason. The trip to Italy was supposed to be simple. Celeste was visiting an old villa in Tuscany that our company was considering purchasing for a future luxury retreat project. My job was to organize documents, review contracts, and make sure every detail was prepared. I expected a stressful business trip. I did not expect a storm that would change both our lives. The villa stood on a hill surrounded by vineyards and ancient stone walls. During the daytime, it looked like something from a painting, with golden sunlight falling across the gardens and wildflowers moving gently in the breeze. The place was beautiful, peaceful, and full of history. But that afternoon, the sky changed quickly. Dark clouds rolled over the hills. The wind grew stronger, shaking the trees around the property. The weather reports had predicted rain, but nobody expected the violent storm that arrived within minutes. Celeste and I had been walking through the property with the local manager when heavy rain suddenly began pouring down. The roads became dangerous, and the manager decided it was safer to leave before the conditions became worse. Celeste and I returned to the villa to collect our things, believing we would leave shortly after. Then the power went out. A fallen tree blocked the main road. The storm became so intense that driving away was no longer an option. For the first time in my career, I saw Celeste Whitmore look uncertain. Not angry. Not frustrated. Afraid. The woman who could negotiate million-dollar contracts without blinking stood silently near the window, watching the storm surround the villa. I wanted to ask if she was okay, but I knew her pride would probably reject the question. Instead, I focused on finding supplies, checking the old heating system, and making sure we had enough food and water until help could arrive. The villa was beautiful, but it was also old. The thick stone walls kept most of the wind outside, but the damaged heating system struggled against the cold air that entered through small cracks in the windows. As the hours passed, I began noticing things about Celeste that I had never seen before. She was not the cold businesswoman everyone believed her to be. She was simply lonely. She carried herself like someone who had spent years convincing herself that needing anyone was a weakness. While searching through one of the rooms for extra blankets, I found an old collection of photographs tucked inside a drawer. I did not mean to look, but one picture caught my attention. It showed a younger Celeste standing beside a smiling woman who looked like her mother. The happiness in that photograph was completely different from the woman standing beside me now. Later, as we sat in the quiet villa waiting for the storm to weaken, Celeste finally shared pieces of her story. She had lost her mother when she was in her 20s. Her father had been a businessman who believed emotions distracted people from success. After her mother's death, Celeste had thrown herself into work because ambition was easier to handle than grief. She had built a company from nothing. She had created a reputation. She had achieved everything people told her to want. But she had forgotten how to let anyone close. Listening to her, I realized something important. Sometimes people who appear the strongest are the ones who have been carrying the heaviest weight for the longest time. The storm continued outside, but inside that old villa, something began changing. For the first time since I had known her, Celeste stopped acting like my boss. She became simply a person. A person who was tired. A person who had been hurt. A person who wanted to be understood. The temperature inside the villa continued dropping, and when the old heating system completely stopped working, we searched every room for anything that could keep us warm until morning. The cold became impossible to ignore. I tried to give Celeste my coat, but she refused at first. She insisted she was fine, even though I could see her hands shaking slightly. That was the moment she finally stopped pretending. She noticed that I was also freezing and quietly pulled a large blanket around both of us, moving closer so we could share the warmth. It was not a romantic moment created by perfection. It was a human moment created by vulnerability. Two people who had spent years hiding behind different versions of themselves were suddenly forced to rely on each other. And somehow, in that uncomfortable situation, we found something neither of us expected. Trust. The next morning, sunlight finally broke through the clouds. The storm had passed, leaving the countryside fresh and bright. The road was cleared, and help arrived to take us back. But something between us had changed forever. When we returned to London, everyone expected Celeste to go back to being the same distant leader. She did not. She was still focused. Still intelligent. Still demanding excellence. But she became kinder. She started having lunch with her employees instead of eating alone at her desk. She created programs to support workers who were struggling. She began sharing her own experiences instead of pretending she had always been perfect. And surprisingly, she also changed the way she treated me. She no longer saw me as just an assistant. She saw me as someone who had stood beside her during one of the most difficult moments of her life. Months later, our company opened the Italian villa as a retreat center. But it was not just a luxury destination. Celeste transformed it into a place where employees could rest, heal, and reconnect with themselves. During the opening ceremony, she asked me to stand beside her. The same woman who once avoided emotional conversations looked at the people around her and admitted that success meant nothing if you had no one to share your life with. I watched her that day and remembered the frightened woman inside the storm. The woman who believed she had to be strong every second. The woman who learned that accepting kindness was not weakness. It was courage. Years later, when people asked me what changed Celeste Whitmore, I never said it was the storm. The storm was only the reason we were trapped together. The real change came from what happened inside those walls. Two strangers discovered that everyone carries invisible wounds. Everyone has fears they hide. Everyone deserves a chance to be seen beyond their mistakes and their defenses. Sometimes the person you think is the hardest to understand is the person who needs compassion the most. Before we finish this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever met someone who seemed cold or distant, only to discover they were hiding pain behind their actions? Leave a meaningful comment and share what lesson this story gave you. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Because sometimes the greatest changes in life do not happen when everything goes according to plan. Sometimes they happen when a storm arrives, takes away our comfort, and gives us the unexpected gift of seeing another person's heart.